Before we start this video, I just want to mention that it is very chopped up and it is not anywhere close to the full video, so I highly recommend everyone go check that out. I'm going to link it up above and or in the description, so please check them out if you would like to see the full video. Hey everybody, Sarah here. So today is going to be another video where I react to someone else's video and I kind of let you guys know what I think of it from a breeder's perspective. This is going to be another corn snake care guide. So before we jump in, I just want to thank all the members on this channel for making all of this possible. I really appreciate you guys. Membership, there's two tiers right now. There's a $2 a month and a $5 a month. There's different perks for each one. So if you would like to check out the join button down below and maybe click the subscribe button while you're down there, I would really appreciate that. And you can see what those perks are just by clicking the join button to see what you can get. Also, please remember I have a website, sarahsnakeshop.com. I am working on posting babies that are available from this season, which is the 2023 season. I've actually been doing more on Morph Market than my own website because my own website's actually harder to use than Morph Market, so you can also check out my Morph Market. I will link both the Morph Market store and my website down below in the description if you would like to see what I have available. Also, a quick thank you to Reptilinks for helping to support this channel. If you'd like to try Reptilinks, they have a $100 money back guarantee, so if they don't work out for you, you can always have that guarantee behind you. You can use my code SarahSnake27 at checkout at reptilinks.com if you would like to do that. Alright, so this is the first time I'm watching this, so this is basically going to be my raw reaction.
Welcome to the complete corn snake care guide. This is the brand new 2018 update of everything that you need to know to care for your corn snake.
So this is a little bit of an older video still, but that's fine. Usually corn snake care doesn't change like that much. I like the video editing quality here. It's really nice.
But I think it's important that we actually go and have a look at where corn snakes are naturally found.
I think that's a great idea. Like, oh hey, let's go look at the actual environment.
I'm here in North Carolina, but they're all around various states in this area. So we really get a chance to look at what their natural habitat kind of looks like. Lots of dead brush like pine needles.
As much as I do really appreciate all of this, I probably am going to speed up a little bit because this video is going to be forever long if I don't.
It's really quite dry up here. There's no like super damp or muddy areas that you're going to find corn snakes hanging out in. One of the nice things about these areas with lots of pines is pines don't actually live very long, but because these trees are dropping so often, it really leaves a lot of hiding places.
I mean, I have to disagree with just pines don't live very long, because like I've definitely seen pine trees that were really old. Maybe in this area that's true, but that could just mean that it's a generally unhealthy forest. Pine trees can get older. It's not that they just don't. It's that this forest specifically kind of honestly seems like not a super healthy forest. So just sort of, it's not a huge deal, but I'm just kind of keeping that in mind.
Now let's go ahead and get all the pieces together to create the perfect enclosure for your corn snake. Keep in mind there is no actual perfect way to do this. There are a lot of options. I'll try and cover all of them, but everyone's going to give you different advice on what to do and how to create the superior setup. You have three main options as to what you're going to put your corn snake in: a glass enclosure, a plastic enclosure, and a wooden enclosure. Firstly, glass enclosures. These are what I prefer, as you can probably tell, but a lot of people really hate other people using glass enclosures. I think this is a bit unnecessary, seeing as there's been so many people that keep animals in perfect conditions in these enclosures. Now, they are more expensive.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, there's no reason to not use glass. Airflow can be a bit of an issue in glass, but it's not like when I was using glass enclosures didn't have that problem. And like I feel like you have a bit more that you can do with glass enclosures than other enclosures, but yeah, I don't have any issues with people using glass or plastic. Wood I do have an issue with, but we'll get there.
Than something like a plastic tub. However, if you ask me, they just look better. If you want to build some sort of beautiful natural custom vivarium, then a glass enclosure is probably going to be one of the best options to do this in, because it's very easy to see in and very easy to work with. A little less humidity and less heat than plastic. So this might be
I don't know if I agree with that. I kind of feel like they hold more. It depends on the plastic as well. So if you have like a PVC that has more of like a screen, like screens on the side, those are actually going to hold heat and humidity much worse. Whereas plastic is going to probably hold it a lot better if it doesn't have the screens along the outside. Glass is kind of an in between. Glass can actually hold heat pretty well, and it can hold humidity pretty well. It's a nice like mid range, right? Like I said, you have your like some of the PVCs that have the screens. That's going to be the worst at holding heat and humidity. But then you have like plastic tubs, which are probably going to be the best at holding heat and humidity. More humidity than heat. I would say honestly, glass is probably best at holding heat. It could go either way depending on the plastic or the glass, but honestly, glass enclosures are a nice like middle ground, in my opinion.
Good thing or humid environment yourself, because corn snakes don't need anything super hot or super damp. At the same time, even if you are in a dry, cold place, you are going to still have success as long as you set everything up properly in a glass enclosure. But it's possible that one of the other alternatives are actually better for you. For example, plastic tubs. These are super cheap. You can just like go to Target, find one for $10, and there you go. You just got to drill some ventilation in with some holes or whatever. You can even add some screen yourself, but this also has its downsides. It just looks not as good. Because plastic is usually clear, hopefully you're going to get a clear one. The animal will be fine, like light-wise, which we'll get into later, but it is...
Definitely always get clear plastic when you can, except for when you have amelanistic corn snakes. I prefer to get this sort of semi-clear plastic for amelanistics because there is some evidence that UV light can damage their eyes over time.
There's the custom wooden enclosures. I don't know as much about this. I've been talking to people about them. There's lots of ways to set these up, and you really are never going to be able to actually find one to buy. You might be able to find someone willing to make one for you, but generally you're going to have to make this from scratch yourself. This might be a
Yeah, so wooden enclosures I don't generally recommend because they do hold bacteria. You almost can't get it to the point where it doesn't without harming the snake. So wood obviously is relatively absorbent, and you may never actually get it clean. And no matter what you clean it with, like you can't really clean it with any chemicals. So like glass and plastic, you can use a bleach solution or a like pet safe chemical solution, but just because something is pet safe doesn't mean it should be in your pet's surrounding all the time. And so if you're cleaning wood with a pet safe, even if it's a pet safe cleaning solution, that it's still going to stay in the wood, and it's just going to be impossible to clean wood properly. And if the wood is treated, that's also not good for the snake. You don't want those chemicals in there with the snake either. I generally just do not recommend wood enclosures at all.
Firstly, let's talk about the size. So this is an adult corn snake here. This is Gobi. As you can see, a little bit larger than a baby corn snake. A juvenile
Only a little bit larger, only about like what, 20 times larger or something.
corn snake really does not need very much space at all. A 10-gallon is actually enough for a hatchling corn snake, or a 10-gallon equivalent size if you're doing plastic or wood.
Yeah, I don't typically recommend a 10-gallon for a hatchling. I actually feel like that's a little bit too big for like a little tiny baby, and that's just my personal opinion. A lot of them do great if you just throw a hatchling into a 10-gallon or something similar, but I do recommend actually something smaller for a hatchling baby to help get them used to you and their surroundings. And even something too big can even stress them out too much, sometimes stress them into not eating. So a 10-gallon would be fine for something like a yearling size, or maybe like between a year and 2 years old. But then once the snake is older than 2, you almost want to jump up to a 20-gallon. So for a lot of keepers, I recommend getting like a large critter keeper. It's K critter and K keeper. That is going to be good for a hatchling to yearling sized corn snake, and you can use it for like a feeding tub later on if you would like to do that once you upgrade to a 20-gallon or larger.
Or whatever. However, you're going to have to upgrade your corn snake somewhat soon after, because the 10-gallon is not going to last very long. So I would say to go straight to a 20-gallon or 20-gallon equivalent if you're using something else.
Like a general kind of rule of thumb is the snake should at least be able to stretch out its entire body from one corner to the other corner of the enclosure, and that should kind of be the minimum. So if you measure your enclosure from one corner to the opposite corner, and it's say 30 inches from one corner to the other corner, but you measure your snake and your snake is like 36 inches long, you should probably get a larger enclosure for that snake.
Whether it's live plants or fake plants, or actual hides or planks of wood, whatever you want. As long as it's safe, it works. But obviously reptile hides usually look the best. You can also get cheaper hides, like just plastic ones or whatever. I like the half logs. However, these have openings on both sides, so some people say that snakes are less comfortable when there's that much light coming in. So you can get a hide that's completely covered with one hole. There's lots of options. Just giving your animal.
And once again, he says he likes the half logs, which are nice, but again, anything that is made of actual wood in your enclosure is going to collect bacteria. I generally don't recommend anything made of actual wood or anything like that in your enclosure.
They might find something like a rock or something else that can warm up. But whatever it is, this thing is.
But do not use heat rocks. That is a big no-no as well. Heat rocks have been notorious for burning snakes. Do not use heat rocks. It's much better to have a rock that you have like a light shining down on, maybe during the day.
Now, the very best way to manage this is with a thermostat. You can also cover parts of the screen if you have a screen on your enclosure. For example, you can lay a plastic bag over like half of the screen, and that will hold more heat.
I don't know if I would recommend plastic, especially, it depends on if you have a heat bulb. If you have a heat bulb, I wouldn't lay any plastic because the bulb will very easily melt plastic that's next to it. However, I have seen people kind of lay like just a towel or something over it, something that's not going to catch fire quite as easily.
Eco Earth, you could say, looks even more natural because it's basically just soil. I love using this. I use it in a ton of the enclosures.
It's actually not soil though. It is a coconut fiber that is ground up.
Finally, we've got feeding. Corn snakes are super easy to feed. This is one of the awesome things about them as to why they're also great for beginners. And when you buy a corn snake, I suggest you ask the person selling it what they are eating already. It's ideal though if you heat them up a little bit past room temperature so that it's more like a living thing, which is going to be warmer. What I like to do is stick all my mice in a plastic bag, put the plastic bag in a container of warm or hot water, not boiling.
Yeah, so you still can feed it to the snake. Actually, one of the main things that breeders will do is boil pinky mice to get trouble feeding babies to eat. For some reason, that really helps. I just kind of pour boiling water over it and then rinse them off. I personally just thaw the rodents out straight in hot water. I haven't noticed that that keeps the snakes from wanting to eat or anything like that.
Wait, where should you feed your corn snake? In the enclosure or outside in some other tub? Please feed it in the enclosure. Cage aggression is something that people talk about a lot. It has yet to be proven. It's been a myth for a while. But
now, I do want to say, so I have some snakes that I feed strictly only in the enclosure. And these are the snakes that bite me because they think that I'm food. It's usually the males for some reason. I tend to handle my females more than my males now. So, like, it's not so much aggression, it's just that they think that whatever's coming into their enclosure is food. And I still kind of go back and forth. I think it's generally fine to feed the snake in the enclosure if you handle the snake frequently otherwise. But snakes that as a breeder, I genuinely can't handle every single snake the way that he's handling his one snake all the time every day, especially during baby season. And so a lot of the males that I haven't been able to handle or haven't been paying as much attention to, now anytime I stick my hand in the enclosure, I get bit because they think that I'm food. So I still recommend, especially if if you want to be able to very easily handle your pets and reach in without getting bit, I would feed them in a separate enclosure.
you can kind of tug at it a little bit once the snake is bit, just to kind of convince it that the mouse is alive and struggling. This kind of just helps the corn snake get a nice grip so it won't let go. But if you yank the mouse away, there is a very slight chance that you're going to rip a tooth out of your corn snake. This is very rare. It's very easy not to yank away, like just keep your hand away.
This is also something that you should be aware of if you get bitten by your snake. If you pull away, there's a chance that a tooth can actually get stuck in your skin. And people have gotten really bad infections from stuff like that and have had to go to the hospital and have had major issues. So if you get bit, I know that it is difficult to not like pull away because that's our instinct, but it's best to just sit there and wait. There's different ways to get a snake that has bitten you off. One of the ways that I typically like to do it is I keep rubbing alcohol around and just sort of rubbing alcohol maybe on your other hand and sort of putting it over the snake's face and mouth. It kind of will make them let go. That's kind of the best way that I've found to do it. And as long as you don't like make the snake like swallow alcohol or anything like that, should be fine. I've heard running cool water helps. I've tried it, it's never worked. That's just my experience. And also it can kind of mess up their gut biome, especially if they're babies. So if you have a baby snake that has eaten and throws up, I definitely recommend Nutrabac. I sell it on my website. It's hard to find it now, but it is basically an electrolyte for reptiles, and it has been a saving grace for me in the past when it comes to snakes that regurgitate. It helps get their gut biome back to where it should be. Once they throw up, they pretty much have just completely emptied their gut, and their gut biome cannot really digest anything after that. And so if they throw up, they need like 10 days minimum before you should really feed them again. And with a baby snake, that can be super detrimental because they have really high metabolism, so they're burning a lot of calories for how small they are. And not only did they maybe not eat for like a week up to the point where you're feeding them, but then they threw that up, and then you have to wait another like week and a half before you can feed them again. And so a baby snake going 2, maybe 3 weeks without eating, or without having any calories, can really be detrimental to them. And so having that Nutrabac helps to replenish that gut biome so that you could potentially feed the baby a small meal sooner than that 10-day waiting period after a regurg, and they'll be able to digest it well.
Finally again, is the water. You can just use tap water with your animal. It works perfectly fine. However, there's going to be chlorine, chloramine, and usually ammonia in this water. The very easiest thing you can do is just add some Zoomed ReptiSafe reptile drops. I've been using it for a few years now. It's immediate, it works, it's very easy. So that's just about everything when it comes to corn snake husbandry.
Okay, so I honestly really liked that care guide. So that was specifically a care guide and not like for breeding or for any additional things. Obviously, there's not like how to care for eggs and stuff like that. I really think that he went into a lot of detail. Now, he didn't go into detail about like what happens, like what you should do after regurgitation does happen. There's a few things here and there that I kind of added in that he missed, and there wasn't many, honestly. Like a lot of times I paused the video to comment, and I didn't need to because he in his follow-up sentence said the exact same thing. I'm going to give the like completeness of it because he did say complete guide. There were a couple things missing. I'm going to say that's a 9 out of 10. The presentation of the video itself, again, very good. 9 out of 10. I loved that he actually went out to the woods and was like, here is where corn snakes live. Look at it. You know, like that just was to me a lot. It was just a great addition. Was the information that he actually gave correct? There were a couple things I disagreed with, especially with when it came to wooden things in Enclosure. So I'm also going to give a 9 out of 10 in that, which obviously means 9 out of 10 for the entire thing. Could follow pretty much everything he did and said in that video and have a healthy snake, and that would be great. So 9 out of 10. Go check out his video. Go check out his channel. I had not checked out his channel before this. This was the first video of his that I had seen, but I am going to go subscribe, and I suggest that you do too. If you have any other corn snake care guides that you would like me to watch out there, please let me know. Mention someone's channel and I will potentially go do that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in a new video soon.